Good evening. Today I'm going to retell the article on page 129, Unit 15. The text is called "It's High Time the G7 was expanded to take account of changing global economic realities" by Jeffrey Sachs. 20 years ago, capitalism was largely confined to Western Europe, North America, and a handful of developing countries, mostly in East Asia. We are now on the threshold of a new complex era of global capitalism, one which offers great opportunities for dynamism as well as deep risks of global unrest. 20 years ago, the regional G7 countries accounted for as much as 90% of the output of all capitalist economies, measured by the GDP of each country. Now, with the spread capitalism and the growth of emerging markets, their share is down around 50%. So, although the G7 countries now represent the richest part of the capitalist world, and they are still the largest international traders, they can no longer presume to speak for the world's market economies and will have to think hard about new ways to manage the global capitalist system. So their thinking must involve the developing world. The developing countries were not part of the initial summit, but they now constitute around 4/5 of the world's population and nearly half of the GDP of all market economies. On purchasing power, China is now the second largest economy in the world, and India ranks fifth. Brazil and Russia and possibly Mexico, depending on whose numbers one uses, are all larger than Canada in terms of purchasing power. So, including some of the largest developing countries in the new symmetry would not be just a matter of fairness or increased legitimacy of the international system, but also a matter of self-interest of USA, Canada, Europe, and Japan, and since economic stability in the emerging market economies will increasingly affect the prosperity of the advanced economies as well. Moreover, some of the crucial global issues, such as global warming, for example, will require greatly enhanced global cooperation. And the G7 countries have long stood for both market economies and representative democracy. This dual purpose for both this dual purpose suggests that democratic Brazil and India should be admitted as annual summiteers, and Russia should be admitted as full-fledged summit participant if it demonstrates the stability and durability of its nascent democratic system. The whole world will breathe easier when China too can be admitted as a democratic partner in the world system. An expanded G7 must give much harder thought to the problems of those parts of the world where economic reforms will not be enough to lift the scourge of poverty. In large parts of the world, such as Central Europe or Argentina, or for example China, economic reforms will make the difference between poverty and growth. The physical climate and access to international trade are good enough to economic performance. In other, management will translate into good economic performance, and however, in those parts of the world, economic reform by itself is unlikely to overcome heart-wrenching and politically destabilized poverty. Thank you for your attention. Have a good day.